Hello, my name is Juan Miguel Munoz Morris, and I am the Ethnic Services Manager for the county's Behavioral Health Department. I will be walking you through this training, which is aimed at helping you better understand the concept of cultural competence. You may not forward or skip to other slides, but you may go back to previous slides at any time. The following training will provide information on the San Luis Obispo County Behavioral Health Department's commitment to cultural competence. We'll also be reviewing the role of the Cultural Competence Committee and Ethnic Services Manager. Additionally, we'll discuss certain rights of clients and consumers that relate to this topic. Lastly, we'll review the role that staff play in ensuring that our services are culturally competent and how each of us can contribute to making sure the county offers world-class services. Let's begin the training. The Behavioral Health Department is committed to developing a system of care which serves a growing, changing, and diverse population. Our system of care should be reflective of the needs of the people it serves, including linguistic and culturally appropriate services. Offering these services will help us better achieve outcomes and allow us to be flexible in order to meet our community where they are, rather than ask them to come to us. For example, by offering information and services in Spanish, we can ensure better treatment outcomes for the Latino community. We believe that by doing this, we align with the county's goal of being a world-class organization. To foster an environment of increased performance in cultural competence, we have developed this training so you have a new set of tools that you can apply in your daily work. You may be wondering, why is the county committed to cultural competence, and what's the purpose of this training? Well, the purpose of cultural competence training is to develop understanding, skills, and strategies to assist in embedding cultural competence into all aspects of public work. Our goal is for this training to provide the necessary tools and skills to increase the county's capacity to deliver culturally relevant services, resulting in better outcomes for the county's diverse clients. So let's start with some definitions. For the purpose of this training, culture is defined and used in a broad, inclusive manner that includes race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, primary language, spiritual life, age, and physical condition. Culture is also a multifaceted concept. It incorporates customs and objects. For example, music, art, and family roles, as well as beliefs or values such as religion, are all components of culture. Competence is the ability to do something successfully or efficiently. So in those terms, cultural competence is defined as incorporating and working to achieve an understanding of how these factors can affect or inform our work, as well as the experience of those we serve. There are four main goals identified for cultural competence. First, we want staff to provide equitable, quality services. Second, we want to reduce or eliminate service disparities through collective efforts. Third, we want to ensure that staff and providers will have an understanding of culture and its influence on their work. And finally, the county and its partners commit to implementing efforts to foster a culturally competent environment. So let's look at these in more detail. First, equitable quality services have to be provided without disparities among racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic groups. Moreover, treatment, intervention, and outreach services should effectively engage and retain the clients who are part of these solutions. Next, any disparity in services should be identified and measured. Then strategies and programs developed and implemented to address these disparities. In addition, staff and providers should understand how diverse beliefs, as well as historical bias, racism, and other forms of discrimination concerning mental illness, impact our work. Then we can address these biases through better policy, program, and service delivery. Finally, staff, contractors, and other individuals who deliver services are trained to understand and address the needs and values of the diverse populations that they serve. Strategies are developed and implemented to promote equal opportunities in treatment for everyone in the community. One of the components of cultural competence is linguistic competence. The California Code of Regulations defines linguistic competence as when organizations and individuals working with the system are able to communicate effectively and convey information in a manner that is easily understood by diverse audiences, including individuals with limited English proficiency, individuals who have few literacy skills or are not literate, and individuals with disabilities that impair communication. That basically means that we have to hire bilingual persons in public contract positions and provide interpreters and materials translated into any non-English language spoken by a substantial number of the population. Spanish is a non-English language that meets those criteria in our county. You've probably seen examples of this, like a poster in Spanish in a waiting area, or signs using symbols rather than words to identify a place, service, or function. However, cultural competence is not limited to linguistic competence. In fact, cultural competence can be associated to a wide variety of other factors. For instance, most of us are familiar with equal employment laws that prevent discrimination on the basis of age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or religious affiliation. A few other examples are that priority populations receive culturally competent, beneficiary-centered services, and that we ensure the most appropriate, least restrictive level of care necessary for persons with severe mental illness. Okay, let's talk about the plan. The state requires that each county has a cultural competence plan. The plan is a document that provides guidelines to help the Behavioral Health Department become more culturally competent. The plan is updated every year and evaluated every 3 years. The most recent plan was submitted on August 31st of 2010. The newest version of the plan is currently being revised and should be completed by the end of the year. Let's discuss what the Cultural Competence Plan entails. As mentioned, the plan provides guidelines to ensure culturally competent services are available to our clients. These services include objectives and strategies, needs assessments, a list of services and providers available to special interest groups, and a training plan that includes 3 trainings per year, among other things. Additionally, the Behavioral Health Department has included language into all its contracts to ensure that service providers adhere to the policies put forth in the plan. The committee meets regularly to update the plan and determine which strategies to implement in order to achieve the goals set forth in it. You may be wondering who makes up the Cultural Competence Committee. Well, the committee is made up of county staff, both clinical and administrative, consumers and family members of consumers, service providers, and advocates for special groups. They meet quarterly, and they are tasked with the following. First, they identify, implement, and monitor policies and practices aimed at providing cultural competence. Second, they also act as the voice of the community as it relates to the services we provide by representing diverse views and opinions. The group also updates the Cultural Competence Plan and its strategies regularly, making sure necessary changes are made to stay current. And finally, they produce information and resources for the community to stay informed, such as the quarterly newsletter. In addition to the committee, each county must also have an Ethnic Services Manager. So who is the Ethnic Services Manager and what do they do? Well, I am. As the county's Ethnic Services Manager, or ESM, I meet with the Behavioral Health Director and others to serve as advisor on matters related to the racial and ethnic populations within the county. The role of the ESM is to promote and coordinate quality and equitable care across all services for all residents. ESMs review service utilization data and actively participate in local mental health planning and projects. Now that we've talked about cultural competence and told you who works on these efforts and how, let's talk about your role in all of this. Let's begin with who needs to complete training. The county system requires all staff and stakeholders and contractual partner providers to receive annual cultural competence training. The Behavioral Health Department is committed to providing training to build cultural competence in our community. You may have received training in the past that focuses on topics that support cultural competence, but we've never provided training on the county's cultural competence program. This training was designed to introduce you to the plan, the committee, and others who play a role in developing the program. Depending on your type of work, you may find that you apply these concepts differently, and therefore there are some distinctions that we should address. Although all staff must participate in cultural competence trainings, some staff may require more extensive training than others. For instance, if you're an administrative staff member who interacts with customers, you should familiarize yourself with how to facilitate services to a non-English speaker or an individual with impaired communication. For example, make sure you have, or know where to get, resources in Spanish. If you need to call in extra help to interpret or translate, you should already have identified a staff member who can help you bridge this gap. You can always ask your supervisor about who to ask for help when you need it. Clinical and outreach staff is required to take various cultural competence trainings in different topics. As clinical staff, you'll interact with a wide range of clients, so being trained in a variety of cultural topics can be useful when working with our diverse community. So we know we have to comply with the Cultural Competence Plan as the state obligates us to do. But we all have an ethical responsibility to treat each other, and most importantly those we serve, with respect and equity. Challenge yourself, and don't be afraid to challenge other employees if they're not complying with the Cultural Competence Plan. Or, if it makes you feel more comfortable, don't hesitate to reach out to your supervisor or the Ethnic Services Manager. Stay abreast of and complete the required cultural competence trainings. Take a look at other courses and sign up for the ones that you think will help you. The Behavioral Health Department will be sending out information on cultural competence trainings on a regular basis. Please make sure to forward those to partners as well. Furthermore, the benefits of participating in cultural competence training and applying it in our jobs are much more intrinsic. Following a cultural competence framework allows us to provide positive experiences to all of our clients, especially our underserved populations. The lasting benefits include a more culturally competent and aware workforce with a focus and commitment to serving communities and populations from different racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic groups. You may also find that you can apply some of these concepts in your daily life. Can you think of any examples yourself? So to wrap things up, providing culturally competent services is the cornerstone of the Behavioral Health Department's Cultural Competence Plan. Staff are expected to comply with statutes, regulations, and policies related to providing culturally competent services. Together, we can all help ensure our community will not only get the care it needs, but also improve the chances that their experiences will have a lasting positive impact that will lead to long-term recovery. When this slide closes, you'll be able to take a final exam, which will ask you one question, affirming that you completed this training, that you read the Cultural Competence brochure, and that you will support the health agency's commitment to provide services in a culturally competent manner. After this presentation closes, please click the Start button next to the final exam and follow the instructions. If you have any questions about the contents of the training, please speak with your supervisor or call Juan Munoz Morris in Behavioral Health at 781-4064. And thank you for your commitment to providing culturally competent services to our clients.